Good evening. I'll call the meeting to order for the Charter Task Force. My name is Gary Hudspeth. It is May the 29th at 6 p.m. You're looking at the task force membership here with Susan from staff and Vanessa Winter from the Coral Board. We're missing Greg. He said he'd be here.
10 minutes late. He's going to be here. Yeah, he's on his way.
Oh, where's he going to?
Kid duty. He's on his way.
Okay. The first thing I'll do is ask, before we get started, if there's any public comments to be made, much like a Coral Board meeting. Any public comments from the audience? Any specific? Okay, we'll pass on that. The next thing I'd like to do is confirm the current dates that we have scheduled for our next task force meeting and your working groups. We've had 3 working groups to date. Here's what I've got on the schedule, and then tell me if you concur. Working group number 1 is tasked for Tuesday, the 11th of June at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And that is Jack McLaughlin. And then following at 6 o'clock, working group number 5 is Irene on Tuesday, June 11th.
It's Eileen.
Still good? Eileen.
Eileen.
I'm sorry.
Eileen.
Eileen. I said something.
What group is she?
Group 5.
Okay.
These are pre-coordinated. I'm just
Okay.
double checking. Then on Wednesday, the 12th of June, Jack McLaughlin has working group 4 at 4 o'clock.
Not anymore.
It is now Leslie,
Yes, sir.
and I'll get to that in a minute. Working group 4. Is that okay, Leslie, at 12th of June, Wednesday at 4 o'clock?
Okay.
All right. Then we have our next task force meeting, that'd be the 7 of us, at 6 o'clock on June the 12th, at 6 o'clock. There is one more working group scheduled in advance, and that is June the 25th, Eileen, working group 5.
Yep.
At 4 o'clock. Okay, now that's what's on the schedule now.
June the 25th?
Yes.
Okay.
Tuesday. I'm going to ask the task force, our next meeting is June the 12th. I'd like to ask for a meeting in the future because we want to schedule the room, and I'd like for you to know when we're going to have meetings. So, as this, how does, if we're going to meet on June the 12th, 2 weeks after that would be the last week of June.
That's the Crow Board meeting is on the 26th.
Right, so, what's available,
That's what they say was available today.
yeah, 17 days. It's either going to be the week after we have our meeting, which may be a little quick, on the 17th or 18th, or the 25th. Coral Board meeting is 26th. Would you be interested in, can members meet on Tuesday, the 25th?
That's when I have my next meeting at 4.
4.
Right.
And then you would do this at 6.
Is that good or bad for
Fine.
everybody?
I won't be in town.
Okay. That's one. Leslie?
I was hoping somebody else would tell me, but, so it's June 20,
June 25th on a Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Just to go over, it'll be the very similar thing what we're doing tonight, but I'd like to,
yeah,
okay.
task at 6
I'll
o'clock.
ask again when Greg shows up, but tentatively at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, the 25th. All right.
Okay.
I'm a little behind here, but we had 2 members that had to bow out, and I'd like to welcome our 2 new members, and one is in the middle there, Bill Grindle. He's serving.
And it's definitely Bill, not William.
You're right.
Okay.
And Leslie Reynolds here. We're going to redistribute the working groups. Jack had 2 working groups, and that wasn't fair. So we've already transferred Working Group 4 to Leslie, and she has that now. I'd like to ask Bill if you would be willing to take the Working Group number 3, which our co-chairman Kathy Van Tassel had, but she's unavailable at the moment. She's on a business trip. Would you take Budgeting and Finance, Working Group 3?
I'd be very comfortable with that, yes.
Okay?
Another 5, that would have been my first choice.
All right. Well, we're all going to discuss all of them at one
Sure.
time or another, but this will be the working group that you're in charge of. And just so everybody knows, I actually have one myself. It's called Working Group 6. That's a big picture items that I'm holding back temporarily. I'd like to ask, we've gone over working groups that have been previously scheduled. I'd like to ask Bill, would you like to pick dates for your working group meetings for the next 30 days? I recommend having 2 in the next 30 days. They're usually held in one of our conference rooms, which is a smaller venue.
Have people signed up for that?
No, they're invited by email, and it's open to the public. We had 2 working groups last night, and we had a total of 9 people.
Okay. Well, I'm traveling most of
Oh,
June,
okay.
so next week is good for me, and the last week is good.
Well, would you like to pick a date so we can put it on the schedule? The issue is I'm trying to schedule it to the town hall so that we can reserve a
Sure.
room, and it won't be taken by another group. And at the same time, we're announcing that to the public because we're being recorded.
And it will go on the flash and will be posted too.
Okay?
I think you use the conference room as an alternate in case this room is busy.
Yeah,
Well,
that's what we
the
were doing last
working
time.
groups are not recorded, but they are open to the public, so we can have them almost anywhere.
Yeah.
Is Thursday available next week?
Thursday.
The 6th?
is-
That would be June the 6th.
Yes.
What time?
It's
Your
not on my
choice.
schedule. It's not on your schedule.
Well, it doesn't have to be this room.
Oh, okay.
It could be a conference room. What time would you like to have your working?
5 would be good, but I
Okay.
noticed the others in before and 6, so does it really matter?
No, sir.
Then 5 is good.
All right, so Bill, I'm going to put you down for 5 o'clock on June the 6th, working group number 3. Would you be willing to schedule another date in the next 30 days that's suitable for your calendar?
So we have the 26th for here.
Yeah, that's a coral board meeting, so
Right.
it's pretty
You can do
busy.
it before if you want to.
Yeah, you could do it before.
You can do it at 4 or as long as, yeah.
You're not gonna have a workshop before it, are you?
No.
We don't. We will not have a workshop before. We have
Maybe
workshops on Monday.
maybe I wrote it. What did we just agree to?
The 25th.
The
The
6th.
Oh, the
6th.
6th.
26th.
The
June
6th,
6th.
June 6th for you, Bill, at 5 o'clock.
No, but I meant for the group meeting, was it the 25th
Oh,
or
it
the
is
26th?
the 25th
At
at 6
6.
o'clock.
And the 12th.
Okay, well, why don't we make it 4 o'clock that day?
Well,
We
we
have
can. We have,
Governance is that day.
we also have Eileen and her working group
Oh,
at
okay.
4 o'clock.
How about 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock on the 24th? How long do these meetings run?
It's up to you. The working group is your choice. We've
Yeah, well,
been running an hour and a
Why
half.
don't we make it 5 o'clock on the 24th?
Oh, really?
And it'll have to be an hour because I have
Okay.
another committee meeting at 6.
Would you rather pick another day?
No, because that's not a good week either.
Oh.
But then after that, things open up.
Well, would you rather go the first week of July? I'm looking for whatever's best for you.
Pretty much any day in that week is fine, so.
Well, of course, July 4th is a holiday and people start taking off on the 3rd.
So-
Unless you're staying in town for the big celebration.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a big celebration?
There's a
Yes.
big celebration.
Oh, good. Well, then how about July 1st?
Okay, what time?
5 o'clock?
All right. 5 o'clock, July 1st, working group 5 with Bill. Thank you. Now, the only one that hasn't scheduled enough is Greg, and when he shows up, we'll discuss that.
I think he's working group 3, isn't
Yeah, he's working group 3, Bill is 3, right?
he?
Bill
Yeah,
is 3.
Thank you.
That's what
Did I say
that's what I've been writing
I was
down.
like, okay, I was on the same page.
Yeah, should be 3.
That's what pencil erasers
Yeah,
are for.
that's right. Bill, thank you, Bill. I did have that right on the first one. Okay. We have task force meeting
Out of
on
town.
the 25th,
She's out of town.
and we have 2 scheduled for the future, so that's good.
So I thought-
What about Leslie? We have her scheduled.
Let's see, Leslie, have you only got 1 working group scheduled?
On the 12th, yes.
Would you
I
like to
did
pick
one
another
tonight.
date? Oh, we did one tonight, and hers is actually a little bit short. So we can,
Actually, she's done.
yeah, I know,
Mhm.
but
Unless I find stuff.
I might reassign her one between now and then.
Okay, but I mean, there's no reason to schedule one if there's nothing else to do yet.
I have some I'm holding back for further information, and I
Yeah.
may assign
Okay.
one in the next week.
Lucky-
As we
lucky
get
you.
background information, like this version 2 I sent you, a couple of you had new issues on
It's
version.
easy enough to cancel the meeting, to cancel it
Right.
too, if we need to.
I'd rather have it scheduled and then you can
Yes.
cancel.
That's fine.
So we won't schedule any more except for that one right there.
Okay.
Okay. I think we're caught up until Greg arrives. I've assigned the new working groups. Just so everybody will know, we have an interim report from us due to the Coral Board workshop on the 15th of July. It'll be at our format. We decide what the format is, but we're working toward that first initial interim report on the 15th of July, which means I'd want to collect the information, sort of put it together by the end of June. And I need to ask a question. It's a workshop. What's the deadline for a report, for a workshop to get to the board?
Rachel usually sends that out on a Friday, so it would be the Friday before, the 15th.
So when would the deadline be that for submittal?
Well, Rachel it would be Thursday morning by 10 o'clock.
Okay. I'm working backwards for me.
So that would be Thursday, the 11th, right,
Say 11, 10 o'clock?
10 o'clock.
Okay. Okay. All right, that was my next question. So now we'll go back to Greg. Greg's here.
He's checking on he's checking the status for the 25th now.
We're looking at the 25th at 6 o'clock in the evening for the next task force meeting after the 12th of June. How does that look for you, Greg?
I should be good. I know I've got travel the day before, but I think I'll be back in time for that. That should be okay.
Well, if you agree, then we only have 1 member missing, so that's okay.
Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and put that in, and
All right.
I don't think it'll be an issue.
The next issue is specifically for Greg is your working groups. Jack McLaughlin here held your working group yesterday, and we conducted business that you'll see today. I'm asking, when would you like to have the next working group for your group, Coral Board Actions?
So I had put out a couple dates. Let me look back, because I saw a note come back. We
Yep.
were just on a cruise a couple days ago, so I'm trying to get caught up on emails. Let me,
Your choice.
yeah, let me take a look during the break and just kind of deconflict the calendar and see what's
Okay.
still available, make sure we can do those. But-
The reason is, I put everybody on the spot before you.
Yep.
Because we want to put it in the schedule for town hall, so we will actually have a room available.
Yep, so I will get, as soon as we're done here, just get with Susan and make
Okay.
sure that the dates I think I've got are still gonna work out okay.
The-
And,
the other
Except
is-
for the 16th, which is a Sunday.
yeah,
Father's Day.
I don't know quite how that one got on there, but
The-
at least it wasn't Mother's Day. I'll look at the bright
Right.
side of that.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah.
The other reason I like to get it 30 days in advance, all the meetings, is so we can publicize them to the public
Yep.
as well as put it on the Friday Flash and the Front Porch and other notices.
Yep.
Okay.
So Leslie is now working group 4?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And I asked for the deadline for the board agenda, so I'll know where we're working toward.
And we talked about that.
And now I'm ready to review issues that the working groups have put together to date, which means yesterday and today. And that is what our job is. We're going, once the working groups have decided on how to resolve or answer an issue on your items, I've put it into the community charter as well as the bylaws in the revision mode. And whenever we have a task force, we will look at it and discuss each one as a group. For the audience, what we're doing is as a task force, looking at the issues from the working groups and how they're being resolved and agreeing on, is this proper? Is this the right language? Do we agree? Do we disagree? And we're going to make a determination of the consensus that we all agree. And then it goes forward and until we finish sometime in the fall. Now, for you in the audience, this isn't the end of the whole discussion. This just means the task force has looked at the issue. When this is all done in the fall, the entire documents will be sent to the Crowell board for an up or down vote. And of course, it'll go to Celebration Legal to make sure the language is proper and we follow the state statute. And then finally, sometime in winter, January, February, the public will be voting on the issues. So what we decide tonight is just a starting point. Okay? Okay. I'm going to see if I can get to, I have at least 10 issues that we can discuss. And you can follow through on the screen or look on your paper copy. The first issue was mine, and you're not familiar with it. The term development and sale period is in 3 or 4 places in the charter and the bylaws. But nowhere in there does it describe what is that period. What does it mean? I actually found the original charter from 2003, and I spent the last month comparing the two. There was a definition of this period, and it got left out of the charter that we have now. So I took the liberty of typing it in here. If we leave this in the document, I think it would be advantageous for everybody to understand what that means, and here it is. I located it in the paragraph where it first shows up.
Okay.
And that's chapter 2 in the charter?
Yes, 2.1.
Page 6.
So that's what I did. Now I want to ask the question. I don't think anyone else except perhaps Jack knew what the development sale period was, because he's been here forever. I found out what it means, and now that I've read it, I would say that does it apply anymore?
I'd say yes, it does apply. The reason for the development sale period, there were 2 periods of control that TCC exercised. The control period is when they first started out, and they maintained TCC control of the board.
Yes.
Okay, and that ended around 2003 or 4.
Yes.
When we had a majority of homeowners on there. The development sale period, that gives them the right to do virtually anything in Celebration as long as they have developable land,
Right.
which they do have.
From everything I've read, I concur with you, because Island Village is still under development and it is being sold. I feel better about I did not change the language, I lifted it directly out of the old charter and put it in here. So it defines what this is.
At one time, we tried to convince TCC that as long as there was all the property in parcel D, which is the area the residents live in right now, was developed, then they should be pulled out. But the PUD actually includes,
Undeveloped land.
well, it also includes parcels F, G, and H, which
Yes.
are the land on the north of I-4, south of 192, and along World
Exactly.
Drive.
Yes, sir.
So they can do with that whatever they want.
It's forever.
Yeah.
Is there any reason is there any advantage to taking it out?
I don't think we can take it out because
No.
they have last right of approval.
Okay.
on the document.
It got left out. I'm putting it back in because
Okay.
it was never defined in the current document, and I felt confused. So I took the original language from the original charter, and that's what is in the revision mode here. If you read it and you like it, a consensus, then it will be,
All right, you're squeezing it in between the land use plan for the development, which is here too. So it's like thereafter, and then your blue section, which is
Yes.
the understanding of the cell period,
yes,
with the inclusion of the following paragraph, the land plan or use plan for the development
That doesn't
of
change.
Celebration. It has to add, or is that to be deleted?
no, nothing gets deleted. I only added.
Okay, so that's being added.
Yeah, the revision mode shows underline what's
Right.
being added. If something's being deleted, it'll be crossed out. It'll
Okay.
be lined out in the revision mode.
Okay,
And according to state statute, that's how it's to be shown.
And what's the highlighted
Federal.
area?
That's just the development sale. I was showing that in,
Oh, I see that.
to
that's
show you
not
where it
there.
is.
okay,
He's-
got it.
He's inserted
I
it.
I thought he was doing that.
And I struggled with that.
The term
Where'd that come
development
from?
sale appears about 4 or 5 times in both documents.
Now, we had talked before about putting definitions
Yes.
in a separate volume or appendix or whatever.
However, if you'll read the entire document, the definition appears in the document. I would still like to keep it in context with the document, and then we can have a glossary in addition to that. Because if you read in other areas, development sale, there is no definition, it just tells you what it is. So if you just happen to pick up, let's say, chapter 21, and you see development sale, I'll go to the glossary to find out what it means. But in its first use, I would like to put it in context.
Okay.
That's something that I'm used to doing.
Or just as a matter of principle, are we thinking about doing that? I agree with the glossary piece. Is our general methodology going to be to do every definitional context the first time any of these phrases appear and do them in?
I would suggest that because there's actually a little paragraph in the charter now that actually says that each term is defined in its first use. Now, that's not 100% true. I found terms that are not defined in their first use, but that little sentence is in the charter. Now, I can't tell you what page it's on, but I
It's
read
writing
it.
a master's degree. Supposed to
It's
be
up
there.
here near the beginning.
I'm just thinking, it's not always going to be the first use, and we're going a little bit off the train here, this is
Yeah.
more general methodology,
okay.
but it's not always the first use is going to be the best time to define something, right? It may be halfway through the document that all of a
That-
sudden, hey, here's really the meat and potatoes of whatever that phraseology is.
That may be true, you're exactly right, which means in a future meeting, let's discuss what that little paragraph, I have to relocate it, but that, there is a paragraph in this document that says, first use is defined, and that's really not true. But that was the intent. Over the years, I think they've gotten away from that. We've had 9 or 10 different changes to the charter, and that gets lost.
I just think for ease of reading for the general public and even for those involved in actually the governance, having to go data mine and figure out where the definitions are at it'd be easier if it was in a consolidated area and there was a consistent methodology. And I know that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, that could be manipulating the whole document.
Well, no, there's something to be said for that. That's why I like the idea of a glossary that you brought up last time, I really do. And we can look at that, let's say, the next 2 or 3 months, let's put in all the changes. And then when everything's done, let's stand back and look at it and see, is there a better way to organize definitions? And then go with the glossary, and then go back and revisit each of those paragraphs once we're done. What do you think about that?
No, that's fine, as long as we're doing it, and I like that. Right now, let's just get the raw data in there, and we'll page mark it and come back later.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that makes.
I like that. Jack?
What is the,
Oh,
what is the now index of defined terms?
it's just gives you a page number that it's on, and they're not correct.
Be right, because it says development and sale period, page 9, so it's not on 9.
No, that's why it's wrong.
Okay, so it's really this one, but it's not defined.
Right.
Okay.
All right, your reference is in chapter 17. I think you should actually be referencing chapter 18, 18.21.
Could be that was from the old charter.
Well, because that talks about expansion by the Celebration Company.
Well, that's, you mean chapter 17 talks about expansion?
Chapter
where?
17 is expansion by the community.
Yes,
Chapter 18 refers to most of the TCC's rights,
right.
which is expansion by TCC of the community.
I understand, but what I'm asking is, what does this sentence refer to?
Which one?
The sentence here,
The Celebration Company owns real property in the community
or has unexpired option to
to
expand the community.
pursuant, and that's what 1821 is, expansion by the Celebration Company.
And that just may be because it's from the old charter. Well, but chapter 17 is expansion.
By the community, by the association
Yeah,
itself.
but outside of 17.1, then they put
So
this
we're
in a
talking
sentence
expansion
at the very beginning.
Yeah.
by the celebration
But they
company.
don't talk about it
This
later.
is expansion by the association. The other one is expansion by the Celebration Company.
Got it. So you think it should be chapter
I thought
18?
it was
Yes,
just like paragraph
that's
7.
where all the rights for Celebration Company were listed.
Now, the charter changed over, and it's just a bad reference maybe.
Am I supposed to say anything?
You may.
You want to come up to the
Come up to the microphone.
Right here.
I don't think I need a microphone, but where was it originally?
In chapter 17, but 10 years ago, the
Right.
charter was greatly reorganized to put the same subjects in the same chapter.
Well, no, what was originally done was, there was an anticipation that TCC would be leaving. And rather than butchering up the entire charter, we would put TCC's reference for this most we could in chapter 18, so we just ripped the whole section out.
Yeah.
So that's why it was moved from 17 to 18. is
But it's
renumbering
still there,
chapters.
so you either take that 2.1 out?
No, no,
Or
no.
put it in 18?
No,
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 no, no,
no,
no.
it's the reference.
Okay, gotcha, sorry.
It's the reference to chapter 17. That reference is now chapter 18.
18, got it.
We're
Okay.
just making the proper reference.
Okay, sorry.
I'm a little confused. The development and sale period never ends, or that has a definite, because this implies that
It doesn't
That's
end
a
till like
def-
2035 or
it ends
something.
with
there is
cel-
a
Yeah.
date.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
there's if you read chapter 21, there are 3 cases when the Celebration Company can end their participation. One is a specific date, which is December of 2035. One is when they tell us they're leaving on their own accord. And the third is when all land that has options of being developed is completely developed.
Okay, so that makes, so, yeah, I didn't understand the last sentence. Got it.
I mean, that's a whole other story. Right
Or
now-
they can transfer their rights to another individual.
They could, that's a caveat. Right now, I'm just trying to define the development and sell period without getting into a rabbit hole.
That goes good.
I have a process question. Now, that language was in the very beginning, and this process has taken place, but twice already. It was just Second time.
This will be the second time.
Second time. So was this taken out before that?
No, it was taken out in 2009.
Oh,
Yeah, it was I just call it an error. It probably should have been left in because no one realized that it isn't defined.
yeah, but the process question is, if things were taken out before,
Yeah.
do we need to revisit what the thinking was if we come across, I mean,
No, I totally agree, and I will tell you, the gentleman to your left was, Jack was in the committee to rewrite the charter 10 years ago.
So I didn't get it right the first time and I got penalized?
So,
That's why you're doing
yeah, so there's our
you better
reference.
block in 10 years from now.
Yeah, plus, I did find the original charter from 2003 on the Osceola County website, and I perused that. If you're interested, I can email it to you. But it's 2 documents, you're looking at a lot of words.
Gary, you also might want to clarify exactly what you're doing in your process now, understanding similar to what Bill's question was.
Well, the Coral Board tasked the task force to revise and update the charter on a 10-year basis, and so we're the second time to do that. They gave us free rein on what we look at. We can look at it line by line, or we can take specific issues. Now, for the last, say, 3 years or so, town hall staff and Coral boards, because it was various people, have collected a list of topics that they have considered to be important to look at for the next revision. I got that list, and that's what you're looking at here, that I divided up into categories.
Mhm.
I didn't change the issue, I wrote it the way that it was given to me. It doesn't mean that the issue has to be, or required to be changed. That is our decision on whether or not it needs to be implemented.
Right, but looking at these, I mean, the first one's mandated 2-year COLA budgeting process. I'll read all that stuff and understand what it says now, but somebody put that comment in there, and I'm assuming that they're addressing a problem, and I don't have the context for it.
That's okay. We will talk about it.
Okay,
Yeah. There's people in the public who have opinions on that, and there are people here in our task force that have opinions. I understand. One approach is to read what's in there now and say, what are the pros and cons of changing this? Bring it to us and we'll discuss it.
right, but my view is, like I looked at the third one down, I had provision to restrict replacement reserves, and I wrote, what are they being used for now? And, somewhere else where I put in here, what problem are we trying to solve? Is there a problem? And
Exactly, and that's why we have board liaisons. Vanessa's one, we also have Jackson Mummy and Brian Kinzel, who's the president of the board. They're giving us some background, current background, because they're on the board.
okay, so,
And we would probably expect Brian to be there specifically for the finance ones, because that's his background, and he's the one that's talking about restricted reserves.
And to one of the comments that you had made previously, Bill, is, when things have been removed or changed, what's the rationale? Gary is actually keeping a journal of a
Yes.
sort of exactly if we're changing something or if we're not changing something and what the rationale is. So when
Right.
we're going through this process 10 years later, we will have the questions that you just asked, was why was this removed? He'll be able to pull up the documentation to show.
My goal is to have a single document in the change mode with comments on the side that provides this synopsis or consensus of our pros and cons and how we came to that conclusion. So as Vanessa said, 10 years from now, they'll say, well, here's what they thought about it, and they thought it wasn't necessary, and it tells me why. Or it'll tell me why they adopted that 10 years from now when we're not here. I'm hoping that to be the case.
You're hoping you're not here?
I don't
Well, I'm
know.
hoping to be here, but not here.
Yeah.
Not in this room.
Not on the
Greg?
bid.
Because we're doing, your language seems relatively innocuous to me just at first blush, but because we're doing a definitional change in relation to TCC, who's obviously got their rights under this, is this something we need to run past TCC to say, hey, are you guys,
Well, yes and no. Number one, this isn't contrary to what, this is the exact language from the original charter, which was written by TCC. So I don't think they will object to it. But on your other side of the coin, besides the Kroll Board and legal, TCC also reviews this before it goes to a vote
Okay.
of the population.
And I don't expect that language would be a problem, but I
Yeah.
just don't want to get too far down the road and
We,
realize
believe me,
they have issue.
as we go down right now, we're working on individual issues that impact homeowners and the governance of the town. When we get later down in the road in August, we're gonna be talking big picture items that involve voting and TCC, and we're gonna get into those issues very deeply. Yeah. I'm trying to start small and work up to the big picture. I understand what you mean. So, do I have consensus on this, or any problems? Or
Looks good.
okay, now I better find where I am. Okay.
I'll second that.
I don't hear any objections, so is that okay?
I'm
I'd
good.
like to work
Okay.
on consensus.
No, it's
and
All right,
let's-
I motion that we approve this.
No,
I second that. Vote?
I'm okay with
Aye.
consensus.
I'm okay.
Aye, 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 aye.
Good. Now, the second one I have is from yesterday, Charter 6.1. It's Charter 6.1, maintenance by owners, which is page 20. Well, that, the page numbers may be different because I've inserted stuff in here.
So is that
You're right.
20 on the charter, or is that 20 on the?
I won't tell you.
On your
It'd be
page.
30.
I'll just say Charter 6.1.
Oh, I see.
The page numbers will be different because I've inserted words,
Got it.
which makes it longer.
Maintenance by owners.
This is Task Force Issue 2-4, which was Coral Board actions having to do with adding language giving Crow Board the right to tie down items for absent owners and then charge it to their account. If you look at the comment, the working group decided that language giving the Crow Board the right to tie down items would stretch limited staff resources and create the impression that Town Hall will take care of them when they're not here. So we came up with other language that makes the owner responsible for hurricane preparedness. And that would be consistent with the rest of the charter, meaning the homeowner is responsible for their home. Now, I'll let you read that, and we made it a separate paragraph because it's a different issue.
The blue was last
Blue is
night,
yes, blue is additions.
and the,
Okay, I disagree with the blue at all.
okay, but that was last night's argument. And
Yeah.
today, the orange is today's argument.
Okay.
I'm sorry, today's
Yeah,
meeting.
don't
Yeah.
look at orange,
Don't
just
look
look
at
at blue.
orange.
And this is what you expressed to me last night, and you told me, take a crack at it.
Yeah, but you didn't talk about part-time residents before.
Yeah, we didn't.
Well, I'm
Okay,
trying
My
to,
issue is all residents. I don't care whether you're part-time or not, you're a resident operation, you're
that's fine,
responsible.
that's fine. I was trying
I
to
don't- I don't wanna-
include all the different variations.
I don't want to be exclusionary or create
All right,
divisions.
Classes.
but do you want to make a distinction of homeowners that are winter versions or just on vacation for 2 weeks?
No, I just say all homeowners are expected.
No, because their construction people will be in communication with them.
This has nothing to do with construction. That's today.
Okay,
This is from last night.
okay.
I've got it.
I just think if you expect me to, you should expect everyone to. And if they're leaving, they should take the stuff off their porch or secure it before they leave.
Mhm.
And if you're asking them to pay whatever, granted, last night you were saying something about you would charge them,
Where's the-
what is that reasonable charge? And then,
Well-
can I get it?
The problem with
You know what I'm
charging,
saying? Like, that's.
the problem with
I think it
charging
should
is-
be everyone.
yeah, I agree, but I don't think we should say anything at all about
Me
charging.
either.
Because
it
we get
should
ourselves
be
in a lot of
everyone.
trouble.
We agreed to not do that. That's why we're making the homeowners responsible.
Right.
We're not giving Coral Board any reason to take care of somebody else's property. So therefore, there's no charges.
Right.
So now it says, all homeowners shall ensure his or her property is maintained during the owner's absence.
And I apologize, I wasn't in the discussion last night. I agree with the intent. I wouldn't limit it to hurricanes. If, you know, and I'd have to kind of think about how we do this, but I mean, if the board or the management company has made a decision, whether it's because of any sort of natural event or whatever it is, that, hey, you need to go secure your stuff, that's not just in the context of hurricanes.
I think I agree with that. I think it, you know, either a weather event or an adverse event.
Whatever's determined by the management company that's appropriate and reasonable, that
Or
should
by the
apply.
governor.
That,
Exactly, but whatever the governing authority is, that should apply, and that should be more generalized
you
than just
know,
a hurricane.
I don't like the way that sentence is going. I would rather say that, you're always talking in the first sentence, each homeowner shall maintain his or her unit, but,
yeah, that's already here.
Yep.
I would, if you want to say absentee owners are still responsible for maintaining.
That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to distinguish the difference between you're responsible, period, and absentee, people who are not here. And I'm talking about the people who live here less than 6 months of the year and live in a foreign country.
But if you're still a homeowner, why would I differentiate that? You're still a
Yeah.
homeowner. If you choose to be gone, that doesn't absolve you of the responsibility
Oh,
of
I agree.
maintaining your home.
I agree.
I think it's fine, I think it reads well the way it is now. All homeowners shall ensure his or her property is maintained during the owner's absence.
Yeah, but,
Extended absence?
no, I don't even like, you're supposed to maintain it at all times, whether you're absent or present.
Well, we're making a specific case for,
That if you're talking about a hurricane or something like that,
well, okay, let's not talk about hurricane. One of the issues we've had in covenants is that we write violations for covenants for houses that are owned, but the person is away for 6 months. So they get an email, and the email bounces back because they didn't give us the right email address. And then we mail it, and it goes to a foreign country. And we've actually had people come in front of the covenants committee saying, well, I was gone. I was going to take care of it when I came back, so why are you fining me?
then I would say absence is not an excuse for maintaining your property.
And that's what they were told. But by being specific here about owner's absence, we're now showing them that not only are you required to take care of it, but also when you're gone, in
Well,
case that's a question in someone's mind.
Maybe we should start with the purpose of that, which was an adverse event, an emergency, or whatever term we come up with, in order to be prepared for whatever it is. Homeowners should plan during their absence for.
Well, read this part right here. Does that cover it?
Right, we don't want to make it just hurricanes.
Yeah,
Oh, that's okay. Leave out that. Just read from here on.
I would generalize this more because,
Oh, yeah.
again, during an adverse event, we don't know, is that gonna mean you're securing stuff down outside of your patio, or what that's gonna mean? Mine would be simply, if there's an adverse event and there's a, what's the right word, an
Well-
appropriate authority coming in saying you need to do something for your home because of that adverse event, you need to adhere to that, and keep that as general as possible, because we don't know what that's gonna mean.
Well,
That's not specific enough.
I know.
The only thing that you know is a timeline that we know for sure is gonna happen is a hurricane. A tornado can happen at any time.
in 30 minutes.
Well, I understand that,
And
but-
you have hours, if not, minutes warning.
But this isn't talking about the amount of warning we have, this is talking about if instruction is given from an appropriate authority, whether that's CROA through the management company or from the governor or whoever else, if an instruction is given from an appropriate authority, you need to adhere to that, whether it's a hurricane and you're securing stuff, if it's a flood and you need to move your cars out of the road, whatever that ends up being, I think that's the intent of what,
That's the intent. I just want you to know, hurricane was the subject that came up last night. That's why it was
Right.
written this way.
But I understand that, but I think you're making it too general to the point of where somebody who is a half-a-year owner or an absentee owner or something like that, you are putting an unreasonable standard of the fact that they need to be able to take care of something when they live in Connecticut, and something happens tonight out of the clear blue. If it's November and nothing's been happening, and all of a sudden there's an earthquake, or something that's along those lines, okay, you can't say that they have to do something immediately just because the governor said. That's just an act of God, and then guess what? Insurance covers those particular things.
well, and I'm not saying that CROA necessarily has to go finding people, CROA reserves the right to enforce the rules, but,
But the difference between what is a known thing that is coming weeks out is a hurricane. Okay, that's Gary's example of the fact that we knew that it was coming.
well, and that's what I said before, if anything, if an authority comes out in advance and says, hey, days out, we know there's gonna be a flood. Hey, you're getting inclement weather that's gonna be just as predictable out there. I don't know why we're confining it to hurricanes.
I understand. Now, somebody mentioned adverse condition. We wanted to be more specific and deal with weather-related events. So can we turn adverse condition to a weather-related event?
Well, first of all, I think we have to have some definition, and also for the
Yeah.
CROA board,
Mhm.
that there has to be some kind of announcement that this is what we need you to do. I mean, we're all thinking about, Irma and the last hurricane, and there was time for town hall to say, this is the time for you to go out and do something. They're not gonna be doing that they may tell us a tornado is coming,
Do
I
you,
don't.
without discussing the orange area, do you see any words down there that appeal to you? I need words to fix the first paragraph.
I'm looking for absent owners are responsible for making arrangements to secure their property in the event of any adverse
I'm notified.
in event of an emergency declaration.
Absentee,
Well, absentee or absent owners, whatever you want to use
absent owners,
it, are responsible.
why is there a left and right arrow? There's an up and down.
It's called a Windows computer.
Okay, I found it. It's home.
Use a Mac, it'd be easier.
Absent
Let me get
owners
it in there.
are responsible.
bought a Mac for this group.
Go ahead.
Open that there.
I gotta put something up there so they look at it.
All right, you got absent owners are responsible for making arrangements to secure their property in the event,
Which is basically the last line on the orange
yeah,
section.
yeah.
In a weather-related event or emergency.
The exact same
Yeah.
line, yeah.
Yeah, but
Gary?
we're
So
still
Gary-
getting-
Gary,
Just
just-
grab that line and move it up.
Just take that whole orange thing and say the absent owners are responsible.
Yeah, but we still get into the thing that if you only have 30 minutes to do it, I mean, there has to be some
Well, no,
correlation between
but-
Crow saying, or the state saying,
If the state says it's an emergency, you need to contact somebody to have your property taken care
I
of.
mean, I'm seeing two separate paragraphs. I'm seeing a paragraph talking about absentee
Yes.
owners and,
That's right.
whatever the wording is, you need to make reasonable preparations before you become absent to secure your property and so on and so forth.
Right.
And then there's a separate paragraph talking about, hey, in the event of natural events,
Exactly.
all homeowners have a responsibility, et
Exactly.
cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I don't-
I see segregating those two out.
Well, we are, but I didn't want to talk about the orange thing. That was today. I want to fix this one right here.
Well, that's just monkey butted fixed up. Do you want me to write what I think?
I just think that the orange paragraph's all we need. I don't think that other blue paragraph
Well,
has
the orange
anything.
paragraph is about specifically construction project debris and equipment. If you're having an addition put onto your home and there's an open dumpster out there, that's very specific. In the blue paragraph, we're talking about hurricane preparedness for people who are gone, are living in a foreign country, and they leave all their patio furniture out, and it's gonna blow into the neighbor's
I
window.
agree, the orange one to me is very narrowly
Now, but,
tailored.
well, we intended for that to be, but that's another subject.
Okay.
So how do we fix the first
All right.
one for
Well,
absentee
once
owners?
You can combine that. I mean, owners are responsible for securing arranging this, to secure their property, including the removal of
Sorry.
that stuff there. And then put a comma down there to include construction project and the other stuff, combine it all.
How much of this do you want to keep? Is this?
None of it.
None of that.
Where do you want to stop?
There should be
To
owners
secure their property?
shall ensure his or her property maintained during the owner's absence. Make arrangements to secure their property, including removes or storage of outdoor furniture, period.
Equipment, well, how about play and sports equipment? I'm
Yeah,
trying to
but,
be
I
specific.
mean, property, personal property.
I'm covering all the
Secure their
bases here.
property.
Gary, can I back
And
up?
we're
a
supposed to
second?
be dealing with
Just
adults.
ask a process question.
Yeah,
It seems to me, since there's a little bit of discrepancy here, rather than worrying about the specific language, if we can get a consensus on intent, and then throw that back to the subcommittee to say, hey, now that we all agree on the intent, go find language to map that and bring it back to us. Otherwise, we may sit up here for a half hour litigating the language. Isn't that kind of the intent of the subcommittees, is to go find that purpose?
we can. I was hoping to solve it so we can move forward.
I'm with Greg
But
on this
okay,
one.
We can
because
do that.
if you could, or just send all of these things out to us, I'd be happy to work on it at home. But I
Well,
think
what I
whatever
didn't
kind
want
of
to
number we're
do
gonna
was
get.
have 6 versions of the same thing. That's the reason we have working groups. I wanted the working group to solve an issue and then us agree on it. But I don't care to have 6 versions of the same thing.
Yeah, but I think we're all on the same page in terms of what the intent is.
I don't know that we are.
we're not.
No, I hope we are, but that's right.
But
That's
that's
what I'd
why
like to
we're
see
here.
here, if there's some discrepancy here, to see what the intent is of the entire group, and then task the subcommittee to go find language to map to that and bring it back to us for consideration.
It's your
Would be my
subgroup.
suggestion.
It's
I've
your
got it,
subgroup,
I've
Greg.
got it.
There you go.
There you
Yours.
go. Talked myself right into that
Right.
minefield, didn't I?
All right, I'm going to leave this where it is, and it's item TN2 TAC 4 in your subgroup, and I'm sending it back.
Okay.
Yes, we did.
So why is it history during
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there then
You just did.
another
Yeah.
meeting that a resident
It
can
was a
come
full-
to?
All the
that
meetings.
Once your subgroup sauces?
Yes, all the meetings are open and will be noticed. Mhm.
Well, I-
Working groups will be notified.
No, wait a minute, Gary, who's this
Gary,
belong to?
it's
This belongs to
mine.
her.
It's mine.
I'm sorry, Gary.
I've got it, I've
Oh,
got
wait.
it.
No, you
But I'll-
have the orange one.
Yeah, but that's combined.
Well, now, the original 2 TAC 4 was discussed last night
Yeah,
in Greg's committee. Now, if you want to combine them, then
Yes.
I need to put it in one committee, so do you
yeah,
want it? or
yeah,
Greg?
I would rather put it in one place so
Which
that
one
it's
do you want it?
not ever, I'll take it. I'll whip it into shape.
Those, yeah, I think there's a couple that really look like they should.
Man, to your point, though, I agree. I mean, since we got the topic up, I'd like to kind of discuss it here, just since we got the forum, just to see, hey, do we have consensus among the group as the general direction we want to go on it? Just so when it kicks back to the subcommittee, they kind of know where we want to take it.
Well, I think we do. I think we all agreed. I was trying to write this words to give that intent.
You're fine, I've got
The
it.
intent is to talk about weather-related incidents, weather-related situations that, not specific to hurricanes, but homeowner's responsible no matter where he lives. Now, how we put that in writing is up to the next subcommittee working group, and then we'll discuss it again.
I thought that was a good line that you just threw out there. A homeowner is responsible no matter where he is.
Well, that's what this line was, right there.
I'm having trouble reading it from here.
I know,
so-
but that's what that line was, in so many words.
But I think that's a very good general statement of where we want to, I think so.
Well, that's a little
good-
too colloquial to put in a legal document, but that's the intent. My,
Well, maybe being responsible for making arrangements to
Mhm,
protect
yes.
his.
that's the, see, we want to give the homeowners the option is, they don't have to come back here and fix it. They can get on the phone and hire somebody, make arrangements, or they can talk to their neighbor if they're in good standing.
But I'm even looking at the bottom of 6.1, the last sentence there. The association shall afford the owner notice and reasonable opportunity to cure the problem prior to entry, except when entry is required due to an emergency situation. So we've already got language kind of starting elsewhere in here.
Well,
Now I want
yes,
to make sure it's deconflicted and flows right.
you're right, that's what we do, that's why we're here. That particular emergency situation has to do with,
The community being responsible.
you know, like you're gone and your house catches fire, or there's a door open, or it's flooding and water's pouring out of the door, but you're not there. That's that original intent. Here, we're talking about a weather-related event and people's external furniture blowing into the neighbor's window,
Yep.
which I think is a little different. They correlate, but I don't want residents to say, well, you didn't tell me. I want to be specific, which is what this was about to start with. How we word it is up to us. All right, so the consensus is I'm sending it back to committee, and it's going to go to Working Group 4, which is Leslie, and you're tackling both of these issues. Okay. I'm going to move to the next one. I'm just kind of going in order by page, so I don't have to go back and forth through the document. Now I'm on Charter 7.1 Alpha. This is Working Group 1 under JAG, which is task number 1, TAC 3. It's about a commercial vehicle. We spent some time looking at the current definition of commercial vehicle and decided that some of this was old language and doesn't apply. And then we updated other language to define a commercial vehicle, and this is what we came up with last night. I'm going to scroll down so you can get the rest of it.
All right. Gary, we were gonna assign this as a separate paragraph. weren't we?
It is
It's gonna be
under
moved.
double I. It was always under double I.
What were we doing?
Yes, but that's not what we were
Mhm.
talking about yesterday. We were talking about commercial vehicles was not necessarily defined the residential related use. And we're talking about commercial vehicles also as a category for defining as well.
I apologize for scrolling up and down. I remember that conversation. Where were we going to put it? Back here?
I thought we were going to combine it all.
Because
We were going-
every paragraph under there starts talking about a dwelling again.
I know, that's why we're gonna lift that out of there and create its own separate paragraph number.
Well, right now we have A is residential related uses.
Yeah.
B is leasing. Did you want to make it a new B and turn this into C?
Weren't we going to do this instead?
I did. All that language is incorporated in here.
Yeah, but I thought it was just going to be like this,
No,
not,
no, it wasn't going to look like that.
not A, B, C, D, and F type thing.
You know,
No,
Gary, I tell you what, this doesn't belong here.
well, I agree.
This belongs under rules.
Ah,
Okay, we talked about it under rules.
I
It
don't
doesn't
remember
fit
that.
here.
okay. Now, I know it doesn't fit here, but I don't remember us actually putting it in rules.
We did.
Okay,
The rules was,
that's okay. Remember, I had Neil here who was editing that document.
The one I just showed you?
Yes, he edited it very well, and that's what we came up with. It's easy to move if you want to put it in rules.
I think it's more appropriate that it goes under rules.
All right, pardon me while I scroll down to rules. Okay. We have rules, which goes down to 15. We added recyclables, and we renumbered, and we put flags. So do you want to make it a whole new number? Because,
Yeah,
okay, now, let's go back to, what was it, 7.1?
7.1.
And talk about how do we address it. This is just a definition, okay? So if we put it in a rule, are we saying commercial vehicles, we have to write it as a prohibited or restricted or something like that? And we
These
didn't
are-
write that language.
These are all prohibitions. Okay?
Yeah, we didn't write that language last night.
Yeah, those are all
No, we didn't.
prohibitions
When
because,
you say are prohibited, see rule number 18, reference rule number 18.
No, we're going to
This
take it
changes
completely
it.
out.
vehicles that meet these criteria are prohibited.
Okay.
Prohibited from what?
Yeah, so that's the issue. We didn't talk about how we would
Right.
prohibit this.
The overnight parking of such vehicles is
Well,
prohibited in the residential areas.
it's not just overnight.
And
Yeah, it
weekend.
pretty much is, that's what we're talking about. Okay, you're allowed to have a commercial vehicle during the day,
During work hours,
Visiting.
yeah.
okay, so it's pretty much an overnight issue or a weekend issue.
Mhm. Commercial vehicles, comma, defined by one or more of the following criteria, comma, are prohibited
From overnight or weekend parking
from
in the residential area.
overnight or weekend
Parking.
parking in the residential.
Do we have residential areas defined?
The residential area is basically a
Well,
parcel
let's
B,
just-
anywhere residential.
Let's just leave it off and say
Yeah.
weekend parking. Or,
What
no,
about in their,
that's,
what about in their driveway? No.
well, that's the whole point. You can't be in the driveway.
We can do that, but.
Or street.
That doesn't-
That's why
Well,
those,
you'll go through, we'll talk about,
those magnet things have to go on them.
if you have display logos or something like that, it's not allowed. If it's a certain size
Right.
that it doesn't fit in a garage, it's not allowed. Okay?
How about that as a lead-in paragraph?
Better.
And then move it as rules number 16.
Okay?
Did we cover it, or is we leaving a hole? Prohibited from overnight or weekend parking in the residential area?
A residential area?
And I'm gonna say the residential area.
Okay.
Now, can they park it on the street in Market Square? That's not residential.
And that's what I'm saying, it's kind of gray area.
Yes, you can, because that's not a residential area. We don't control that. We have no ability to say you're parking in front of a home or anything like that. The homeowner is doing it.
Does this include parking in condo areas? Because that's residential?
That's a residential area, it's prohibited,
Okay.
Overnight and we,
okay?
Mhm.
inspect.
I'm not sure what bullet B means. Vehicles outfitted with work equipment, are there commas that are missing?
Well, there's,
No.
I'm sorry.
It was meant to be work equipment packages / cargo. That came from the definition from here that we used last night. We're talking about vehicles that have like tire changing and compressor pumps in the back,
That's
you
not
know,
a
that
residential
are
area.
industrial.
Okay.
Just the sentence doesn't make, it's not even a sentence, it's a fragment, it's a bullet, it just doesn't make sense to me.
That just-
Vehicles outfitted with work equipment
So
makes sense.
long as
Well,
it
it's
goes.
defined by one or more of the following criteria.
I got that. Outfitted with work equipment makes sense to me, hey, ladders,
Well-
toolboxes, things like that, but work equipment packages / cargo, no.
It
we're
came
getting-
from that document. If you don't like it, we'll change it.
Okay.
It was in that document there.
This one.
Well, the packages would mean roof racks and stuff like that that had
Toolboxes.
ladders, toolboxes,
One of those
towing packages.
compartmental pickup van things.
That I understand, if we use that packages / cargo use and/or transport is just, it's getting,
I see where Greg's going,
We're just
and
verbose.
I would be careful because there are a number of pickup trucks that have a,
Yeah,
a toolbox thing
toolbox
on
in
the
the
back
back.
of it.
Yeah,
that are strictly personal.
Yes.
Yeah.
sure. So what do you want to say? Because I just lifted that off there, and last night everybody liked it. What should we say? That's why we're doing this.
Well, outfitted with work equipment intended for commercial use.
I mean, I'm a little nervous about using what I think of as the laundry list approach, which I find sort of sprinkle wherever, where we sort of list 3 items without sort of,
Period. That's the other, the rest of that sentence doesn't need to be there.
some kind of like
So
such
this is
as.
crossed out.
Yeah, it doesn't need
That's
to be
crossed
there.
out.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, can you see it's crossed out?
Yeah.
I have to show this because that's the way the Florida statute. You have to show what you're taking out and what you're putting in. So you have to look closely. So intended for commercial use or transport? Semicolon,
Okay.
next.
Maybe limousines.
And Steve brought up, what about a policeman that brings his car home and parks it on the street? Or in his driveway?
Well, there's an exception there for a police use.
That's, he's driving. You've got guys that are utility workers bringing their vehicles home.
Utility worker, there's no reason for a utility worker to have a vehicle parked in the residential area.
Business, there's gas truck, runs in Celebration.
I'm sorry, what's that? Where?
At Celebration Avenue every night, past the Catholic Church, every night.
Okay, he's not supposed to be there then. We need to have somebody out there inspecting.
I mean, but you have sheriff deputies because they're not
We
fleet
can make an-
dispatch, they just drive home, they park on the street.
We can make an exception for, because we hired security down at Lakeside, and that's under our contract, we can make an exception for security / government law enforcement, emergency.
Let's go to Tom Slate and find out if there's an exemption for police vehicles, because we don't allow the police vehicles that are parked down to the community service vehicles to be parked in front of the
You've
city.
got Orange County deputies that live in the,
Orange County doesn't work in Celebration.
no, but they
They live
drive
there.
their vehicle
And
home.
that's what
they
I'm
park.
asking, is Tom Slayton is aware of a exemption for them?
Ordinance.
An ordinance allows them to do whatever they want with those vehicles.
No, it's just the same way. Jerry drives his car from St. Cloud, parks it in his driveway.
Yeah.
He comes here to work. He doesn't go to roll call. He is dispatched by a computer. It's not like the old model of going in, you drive in, park your car, go get a fleet vehicle and do that. These guys are assigned a vehicle, they drive it from their residence, and once they start doing it, they are on law enforcement duty, even en route.
Well, and whether or not there's an exemption somewhere in law,
That's
I'm
right.
fine putting an exemption in here,
I
just to make it
understand
clear,
that,
yeah.
but
Yeah,
that's
let's
for
do
the
that.
homeowner, but I'm just saying, when you start saying commercial or whatever, anything that has a logo, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, I don't consider police as being
I understand
commercial,
that.
but logo might be.
I'm gonna say police is not commercial.
Yeah, I
okay?
agree.
They don't make money.
I don't consider police commercial, but police do have logo on their
Logo,
vehicles.
that's already in there, isn't it? That's already in the charter, correct?
Yeah.
What?
The term logo is already in the
Yes.
charter,
Yes, it
Yeah,
correct?
that in
So-
black is in the charter.
Has it been an issue?
Well, we've been having people be at town halls going out, and that's been going, inspectors are seeing people who are realtors, their cars are parked in front of their homes,
And that's a
I'm
violation?
back- I'm
That's a
back to- I mean,
violation.
as far as police or anything like that, have we had any complaints?
I don't think they're right.
That's what I'm, I mean, yeah, I was like, I don't see
They're right
where
now.
it's been,
Yeah.
I guess my concern is if we over edit, we have a
If I see
chance,
it, it's a violation.
if we over
Crow's gonna
edit.
reserve the right to look at a sheriff's deputy
Yeah.
car and say, I'm not gonna go
I'm
see
not
a
gonna
sheriff's
do
deputy
it.
car.
So if we over edit something, it has a tendency to backfire. If it's already in the charter and we haven't had an issue with it, understanding that CROA is not going to fine the police department for parking their vehicles in there. More than that, there's a process, as you full aware, you're part of it, that if indeed somebody believes that this is a circumstance, that we have circumstances to be able to overcome them. I'm just afraid I don't want to over edit.
Yeah, that's fine.
Does that sound better?
Where are we at? If you start reading from the top again, are you okay with this?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a sign.
Well, have we moved
Next time
commercial
you should
vehicles
sit
out
down.
now?
No, I'm just, that's just cut and paste. If you agree, we haven't talked about that, to remove it from here and put it in rules as a prohibited
Well, I don't
restriction.
see where commercial vehicles fit under this paragraph as use occupancy. and-
Well, there is this, under residential related uses, there is that mention of a commercial vehicle, which is why the definition was put here in the first place.
Was the intent of this edit simply to better define commercial vehicles now? Or was it, or was it something else?
It was to better define it,
Okay.
and also not as a secondary indicator of a non-discrete business. It was in the wrong place, but we're trying to figure out where to put it.
Not as a secondary indicator of a discrete business.
And I haven't figured out exactly what that means.
I don't know what that
It
means.
came from a lawyer.
Well, that's why I don't know what it means.
I know, but I will show you that the word commercial vehicle appears in this sentence right here, which is why.
Yeah, but I don't have a problem with it being there, because you go back to commercial vehicles
Mhm.
in the rules section, and
Yeah.
clearly defines it's a violation.
Yeah, in this context, it's just defining an activity related to a residential use. So you're right, that's okay. So if you like what we're doing, it's an easy cut and paste to move this to rules.
So as far as it goes to the definition of the commercial vehicle, again, what's the intent of the group here? We're saying we don't want work trucks with ladder X, and
Yeah.
we don't want taxi cabs.
Logos, you don't want
We
taxi
don't want
cabs.
logos.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I'm looking at the curb weight thing, okay, we're changing the curb weight of something, presumably. 'cause-
We're not changing
No, we're not
it.
changing,
It was 3.25.
Oh, okay.
Nobody
Too many
understands
ton- too much
3.25, so we made it 3.25,
Got it.
you know.
This feeling seemed to be that we wanted absolutely no writing related to a business of any kind.
Pretty much. Yeah, because that's the way
Because, yeah.
covenants are writing up
Right.
stuff now, and have been for decades.
Well, I mean, we asked the question of even a small, that just said your name, no. So, yeah, it's pretty absolute.
Yeah, we don't make exceptions right now. Now, we took this out because now 10 years ago, we didn't have Uber and Lyft.
Yeah.
So that's okay. And then this tells you can't display a logo. This tells you how you can solve that problem. And we felt that that was important to help residents understand. We're not telling you to repaint your car, you can just cover it, which a lot of people do. And of course, this is all solved if you park in your own garage.
Or you park behind a gate or fence.
Yeah, if you park behind a fence, nobody sees it. But as you know, a lot of people, their garage is full of antique furniture, so they park on the street.
For your kids' college stuff.
Yeah, or 15 bicycles.
Holy crap.
On the size precluding, bullet C, precluding residential garage parking. So we're saying we don't want uber big vehicles,
Limos.
okay?
The issue is that, we want people to park in the garages because we have limited places on the street to park, among other things.
Which is a totally separate topic to
Totally
this.
separate thing. So that's one of the things, if it's too big to fit in the garage, it's probably not a personal vehicle.
I mean, I'll tell you, my garage, we park in there, but if I had a Suburban, to me, that's a residential vehicle, but I'm not fitting in my garage because it's too tall. So that one, to me, C doesn't really get at the heart of what I think we're saying here, the truly
Yeah.
work truck sticker stuff that I agree
That may
with.
be a
C-
that may be a sticky one with some of the larger
Yeah.
vehicles, yes.
Some
C
people-
kind of wanders off for me,
Some people have Hummers,
which are still residential.
exactly, yeah.
And they're parked on our streets.
Right, yeah. But as long as they don't have a logo on it,
And honestly, that's unenforceable. What are we gonna do, sit here with a measuring tape and compare the guy's car to his garage?
and that's the
I would
reason,
strike C.
that's the reason you see,
wondering.
they're not written up,
Yeah.
because they're Suburbans and Hummers, and it's a vehicle.
I would recommend striking C. I just-
What do other people think about taking that out? But now you
What
open
does
the
it
door for
specifically
limos.
say?
Size precluding residential garage.
Now you're opening the door for buses and limos.
Well, you're limiting that with that weight
The
limitation.
weight limit. yeah.
Okay,
And any bus is
And
gonna
with
have a
the
sign
fact it
on
won't
it.
fit.
Yeah.
The question is, what do you want to see in front of your house?
right. You don't want to see an RV,
Never, never.
right, or a trailer jacked up and.
Well, but we don't address trailers in here, which is
Well,
which is a great point.
That's
That's
in
un-
the-
it's in-
that's in the rules.
It's under parking.
Okay.
It's the rules.
Parking, yeah.
Well, but should that
No,
be,
because that's not a commercial vehicle. RV is not a commercial vehicle. But it is covered under parking in the rules already.
Does that cover, what about the big black vans that I know are currently allowed with specific circumstances once they've cleared through ARs, or through covenants? I know that we have a couple
Yes.
residents that have reached out to say, I want to get one of those big, large vans.
Yeah.
because I got 7 kids.
Well, there's one on my street.
Or some, they travel, right? So that instead of
Yeah.
using an RV, they just want to be able to throw their kids in the car for a longer distance and they don't
It's
have to worry
it's
about
an
RV.
oversized van is what it is.
Correct.
But it doesn't have a logo.
No?
Well, I mean, is there anywhere in here that has an exception clause as to here's the process? If you fit some of these criteria by which you get a waiver,
No.
No,
should
No,
we
it's
have one?
by
No.
incident,
we've never allowed that.
all by incident.
She's saying they're being requested.
We don't write,
It's more
it hasn't been written up.
clarifications, it's not being, it's clarifications, is if I get this,
Yes.
am I violating any covenants? Is what
And-
they're
According to this, it would be.
I know, but
Yes,
it's
they are.
never been written up, because it looks like, it's not a bus, it's just kind of an oversized van. Nobody's written it up
I
yet.
think if we're taking the time to define the rules, I'd like to have a consistent application of the rules, and how do you exempt from the rules? What's that process?
I agree.
Mhm.
Just that way it's clear, because somebody may not even realize, hey, you just said it's explicitly prohibited, they may not even realize that, hey, there is a waiver
Well,
process for
if you
something
take
like
this
that.
out, I'm only then limos and buses are covered by curb lane.
Hmm?
Okay, we can take that out, and then you
Susan,
don't
do you
have to
see
make.
any issues with our current covenants process to where removing that would be an issue anywhere?
Is he gone? Oh.
I honestly don't recall any,
Yeah.
but I know that from a community standard standpoint, do we have teeth? If somebody's parking on the street, do we have teeth because it's a public roadway? You know, those are challenges that we have all along. Our documents say no, but we can't have the police tow or tag or do anything. So it's just something to consider moving forward. We gotta
Well,
make sure that we have teeth.
Your teeth in this is a finding process.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But also having a violation to be able to write the fighting process through.
Right.
So my question is, if we remove that, is that going to have any implication as to any process we have currently to where that would be an issue?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, because Greg explained it very well. Any oversized vehicle that's greater than 3¼ ton, it covers it. I'm not worried about size if we stick with a 3¼ ton. And those big vans probably don't approach 3¼ they might.
I'll bet you they
We
do.
probably should do
7,000.
some research.
Can you
really
have
on-
access to the internet? Look up the Mercedes van See how, what the curb weight is on it.
There's one on my street.
Yeah, look at the curb
Jerry
weight.
and I were on a long road trip, and for some reason, we were looking at what can tow a small trailer, and we were looking up weights, so I think probably.
What's it called, the Mercedes what?
Pays to do a little
Sprinter?
research to find out what kind of weights we're really talking about.
What was the
here.
basis for 3 1/4? It seems. Well, not 2
It's been in there since the document was
Right.
written.
I'd have to ask Dan Tomsick, he's the one who came up with that number.
The 170 wheelbase is 5,700.
Okay, so that'd be about,
That's under 3 1/4
Yeah.
ton.
But base pay, that's the base, maximum is
Okay.
13,000, there's nobody out there with 13,000, yeah.
That's a truck.
Yeah, that's, so, it's the base weight is
So
about,
3 1/4
yeah,
ton sounds like we got it covered.
Yep.
yeah.
The question is that base weight too high?
Well, my bigger question is, how is that enforceable? Are we
Oh.
going somebody out there with a bathroom scale?
No,
and
no,
figure out
it's,
how much is their weight?
it's one of those things the residents reads and they know.
you know,
Okay, all right.
this is gonna come up as a result of some resident complaining about the size of some vehicle.
Yeah.
And then town hall's gonna say, well, what's the weight of that vehicle?
Well, we want to be able to,
Yeah.
if necessary, park your regular vehicle that you have to use to
Well-
transport your kids someplace, or that you just need to.
Well, that's the other
tow
thing,
your-
and an oversized vehicle takes up half your front yard, you know, for parking area. So,
As opposed to what would be used for a commercial
yeah.
vehicle.
I have to leave, but if I could just make one comment. I sit on the president's committee, and to Gary's point, the people that come in front of us, they don't know. And so the last meeting, we were talking about making it clearer, making everything we do clearer. And if the point of this is not to make it clearer and define it when it first comes up and put
But
it
we're
in the
taking that part
glossary,
out, though.
that's the only way to look at it. It has to be 12 places, and it really has to be clear to the average person and not to
We-
you guys.
we don't wanna obscure
You
it.
know, because the average person is looking at that and making an interpretation based on what they know.
That's why I like the, if I may digress, the paragraphs about taking care of your property in absence. And then separately, if you're having construction work done on remodel of your home, to me, that's two issues, and I'm explaining specifically, as a homeowner, you gotta look at both of these to take care of your property.
Well, and back to that issue, if they're gone for 6 months,
Yeah.
they're going to have mold, they're going to have green stuff on their fans, their patio furniture is gonna be full of, pollen, you know, they're gonna have certain other things that they have to do. Why wouldn't they just take it inside? And it would solve the problem before they leave.
And so you're speaking
So then
reasonably
you're not
now.
asking to find them for
But
the
you're
12
speaking,
other days.
you're speaking reasonably now. Okay,
It was-
throw it out.
It was pointed out last night that if we even suggest to people that they bring in their porch furniture, then we end up with a fair amount of houses that don't have porch furniture and look like they're vacant. I'm just telling you what,
Yeah,
because condos actually.
I do understand that point, but I
I-
also understand that I don't want the neighbor's porch furniture coming through my home.
Right.
To this point, I don't want my neighbor who's a realtor, who parks his vehicle that is completely logoed out in front
Yeah.
when it happens.
Then
I
that's-
don't want people parking
if you-
on the side of my house with their non-logoed vehicle 50 feet from the stop sign and 30 feet from the alley, and they park there anyway. So, and by the way, they've driven the wrong way on the street, which is a one-way street, but that's irrelevant. If the law is 50 feet from the stop sign and 30 feet from the alley, don't park there. So why don't I have a no parking sign? I don't. I have to chase everyone off. So if we're being apparent and transparent and doing our due diligence to make sure that things are clear, I won't have to address it, Jerry won't have to come to my house every day.
So for the complaints you're seeing and the conversations is this going in the right direction?
Yeah.
What are we missing?
No, I don't think you're missing anything, because the logo is the logo. If your car is logoed, but I don't agree with the police officers, because to me, that's an added value in I see that.
Absolutely.
There's a value add for me.
I would
have a
agree
home
with-
next door to me that is for sale right now. I would love for a police officer to move in there and park his car there.
Yeah, I would,
Because then every time somebody parks 50 feet from that stop sign, I can just knock on the door. You know, this would solve all kinds of problems.
well, that's a little off subject, but I agree with you as far as police car being an added thing next to you, except if it's Orange County. It's a waste of time,
Right. Well, I
okay?
don't know.
And we do have a bunch of Orange County guys live here.
It doesn't have jurisdiction.
Pound on his door.
He
till
might
the
not
door.
have jurisdiction,
Some-
but if
some
we
break
saw
in the
what
house.
happens on our street at one point,
Oh, yeah.
I would have, it would
It's-
have at least been a resource.
It's, yes, that's the key. It's
So he
it's
may not
exposure.
be in his
Exposure.
jurisdiction, but he would be a resource and he may be a deterrent.
So Gary, separate question, I'm sorry. I think you or somebody said about 10 or 15 minutes ago, this is defining the commercial vehicles piece, but there was a separate section somewhere else that defined restrictions on residential vehicles and how and where we're parking.
No, not residential vehicles, it's parking.
Parking.
Okay.
Parking specifically.
Parking. It's under rules, and it's
Okay.
number one, I believe.
And it's 4. It's
Four.
tab 4 in your,
Okay.
But
I
it's,
just want to make sure we're deconflicting and looking at the.
Yeah, because
Not-
that is a problem.
it's 2A, and we have changes to that from last night, so
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
Whose committee is that, by the way? Can I just ask that?
Rules, me. There's rules, it's me.
This is rules, it's Jack.
I might have to send you an email.
If you have any questions at all, you can also just click it onto me and I can forward it on to Gary and he can get it to the right person too, so.
I appreciate that. Thank you
No
guys.
problem.
So,
Thank
thank
you.
you. If you're liking this and you think we should move it to rules, that's easy. I don't have to do it right now. But here's what I want to show you. If you look at 7.1 and A, and then the last line in A says, if the business activity is discrete, and then subparagraph I is discrete is defined by the following. So then we have an I with no double I. And then we just start a new paragraph. So in my rule, you can't have a single,
English rights here, dear.
you can't put an I without a double I. You have to, what we could do
it
is,
does have a double I and it's commercial vehicle.
right, but we're gonna move that to
Oh,
to
okay.
rules.
Gotcha.
So here's what I do, I've solved my own problem. Right after discrete, just start the next sentence.
There you go.
Discrete is defined by the following, and then instead of A, it becomes
That's
I,
fine.
double I. Yeah, okay. All right. If you like, and this is just busy work now. That didn't need to be, okay. So if you like, we can tackle one more.
My last one I'm looking at, before we go off of this, so we are talking about in the rules section, looking at tab 4.
So you're
bullet
jumping
2.
ahead to the end of the document.
Well, but as it applies to the commercial vehicles,
All right.
it's saying they have to park in garages. This is page 115 of 142.
Well, give me, it's paragraph 4,
I'm sorry.
It's 2A.
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 The last line, provided such restrictions shall not apply to construction vehicles or third-party service vehicles when providing services to the unit on adjacent to which they are parked or to guest parking in accordance with such reasonable regulations as the board may adopt. So again, we're making exceptions to the commercial vehicle rule in the
Yes.
rules piece,
Mhm.
and it's not necessarily conforming in here. We're defining the rules for commercial vehicles in two separate places. We're doing an exception of it in 2A, but the rules of it here.
Let's see.
And to the lady's point about clarity, now I gotta look at two separate places to figure out, hey, I've got an exception clause to something that's somewhere else in the document.
All right, so we probably need to combine the commercial vehicle.
I think it needs to all go in one, to your
Yeah.
point before, I think what you were saying, getting it in the rules, I think that all the definitional stuff needs to go in one place.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as earlier.
Well, we are moving commercial vehicles back here.
Yeah, but-
Question is, do you want it to be a separate number or
Well-
part of parking?
Well,
I don't think we should
It's not part
mix
of
it.
parking,
That's
no.
right. It's not. So what do? Do we want to reword this section right here.
Yeah.
Well, but section 2 is simply restricted activities. Certainly it fits within that, even though it's not parking.
Well, no, we actually said it's prohibited activity.
Well, we can change the word.
Actually,
Yeah.
Well, no, it is prohibited, it's not restricted, it's really prohibited in commercial vehicles. So it has to be a separate paragraph. So what I'm looking at is we need to change the wording of what I've highlighted here. If that's what you want, to be more compatible with commercial vehicles. We could just say, such restrictions shall not apply to commercial vehicles. Well, I kind of like what it says, but we could refer.
I don't disagree with what it says. I just want to make sure it's all in one place, so somebody's not
Well, it's going to
scanning
be,
3 different sections of the document to figure out if I can park my truck here or not.
no, it's only in 2 places, and they're both in rules. We took it out of the charter, it's
Right.
now in rules. So I was gonna put it as number 16, but I could make it number 3, but that's a little bit way down the road here.
I would make them coincide and be adjacent to each other, otherwise, even if it's within the same section, you're still kind of
Well, but
flipping between some bullets.
it's not a restricted activity, it's a prohibited. Commercial vehicles are prohibited. So I could say a reference here, leave this in here and say, see commercial vehicle prohibition in rule number 16. Tie it. I like what this says because, to her point, it explains that guest parking and commercial, and construction vehicles, this doesn't apply. Parking is, we're providing better definition.
for now, let's just leave it as a separate thing. We'll tackle that later, okay?
We can.
I don't see that, I'm not seeing where we can merge the two at all right now.
Anytime we start merging subjects, then we lose it. People say, oh, I didn't read that. Oh, it's buried in here. I don't-
Well,
that's-
one deals with your ability to park
Yes,
your vehicles in a certain time frame.
Mhm.
The other one says these vehicles are not permitted here.
not permitted, period. That's right. And item 2 is restricted activities. It's a different word. All right. That was number, under Group 1, TAC 3, we rewrote the commercial vehicle and we moved it. I'm still going to ask legal if there's some sort of a state police exemption for parking overnight. If you want to tackle one more, the next one in line, going this way, is number 4. And take it in sequential order. Oh, Susan can answer this one. Yeah, because this one I put in myself, it's from my list. I'm sorry, 7.1, parentheses B. Actually, go to 7.1, parentheses C, and it's a paragraph right above C. That's the best way to describe it.
Is the leasing section?
Yeah, it's under leasing, and it's above the transfer of title. So we're in leasing. The last paragraph, am I to understand that Town Hall wants a copy of any lease on file?
Yes.
All right, so what do you think about me writing that in there?
I think it needs to be entered in there. Notification does not necessarily carry the weight of a copy of a lease.
I read that and I said, okay, so you get on the phone and you tell me I got a lease, but I know Town Hall wants a copy of it, so I added this language to simplify it.
In order for them to get a card, they have to have a lease.
That's exactly
file.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so do you like
On
this?
file.
On file.
In the file.
Okay, because a number of people have moved from one location to another location and haven't found out until they were locked out of the pool or
Right.
locked out of the
Right.
dog park a
Exactly.
couple of times.
Exactly.
And they didn't know that, and that's not in the documentation.
Well, when somebody comes and with a brand-new lease, when that person leases the property, the owner's cards are disabled, and any prior renters are disabled. And the new renters get it, because you can't have 5 different renters for the same home having access to the amenities or our events. It'd be chaotic.
Okay, but when the renters leave, I thought their ID cards were taken from them.
They're not taken from them, they're deactivated.
They're deactivated.
Right.
Okay, because we've had that problem over at the park.
Mhm.
So, gets to a separate point, though, and I don't know how often this happens, if somebody's lease hopping, hey, they're in one apartment here, and then they move across town, do we have language somewhere that says, not only do you have to present me the lease when you move into a new place, but you need to notify us
residence.
when you leave a place?
There is no clause, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, but I don't know of any place that it says that you have to notify us when you leave.
No, that's not anywhere at all.
But if you,
Not that I read.
Deactivate their card because you know the end date of the lease.
Well, if we know the end date of the
Well,
lease,
it's in the
yes,
lease.
yes, we do deactivate
Well,
the card.
but
I'm just thinking if somebody leaves early or something, is it worthwhile putting in language, if for whatever reason you're vacating as a renter, do we want to ask for them to provide notice?
I don't know if we really, if that's
Usually,
that
usually it
important.
goes back to the owner though, right? Don't we usually revert back to the requirements for everything is to the owner? It's
It is to
the
the
owner
owner.
that's supposed to be able to provide the lease. No,
So and if you want to do it on that side, that's fine, if the tenant
Yeah.
vacates,
Right.
that they need to
Notify
notify us the tenant vacated.
I think that's reasonable,
that's a
and I
good
think that
idea.
would save, I think that would save at least a little bit with our Airbnbs too.
Mhm.
If we
Yeah, but
know
it says that
particular-
Well-
on B, at the very bottom, it says no single rooms or other fraction or portion
Yeah.
thereof.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, if they're doing rentals, right, so for instance, they have a tenant that's been there, they leave, and all of a sudden they decide to go ahead and do a slide-in for a short-term rental or Airbnb or something like that, we would at least know, if they, if they already notified us that that particular person is gone, it would be deactivated, we have notice.
I can think of 20 different reasons off the top of my head, I would want the management company to know.
To know.
Somebody's left, and
Yeah.
now who's in there as well.
Well-
And, it goes back to the emergency notification, all sorts of stuff, I can think that would be.
How can
And
we-
there are plenty of people leasing, renting, homes and apartments here who never, ever come to town hall. We never give them a card. They don't visit our amenities. They don't come to our lifestyle events.
they don't participate.
And so, you know, how many, for the Airbnb purposes, how many people do we have that rent out to Airbnb? If we don't catch them, and we
We
troll
try.
those
We
sites on
try.
a weekly basis, and other people do as well and
But I mean, the
notify us.
enforceability of something is a separate question from at least creating the rule, where we've got the rule in place, so at least we've got something to leverage against them to try and do it.
So
How often
putting
we
in
get it
there,
is
so
something
to
separate.
that point, putting in a phrase, something to the extent of, you must provide us with copies of all leases and when a tenant leaves.
That
No.
that would work.
Notification of termination of lease. See, I like what I've written because it is very minor
I can't read
change.
it, I'm sorry.
It says, notice of any lease, together with a copy of the lease, old, and such additional information as the board may require shall be given to the board by the unit owner within 10 days. I just added a very small section that said, a copy of the lease.
All right, but what about the termination?
Well, that's where we're gonna add now.
I like what you put in there, Gary, as far as
Yeah.
that, I'm fine with that. I would like to
Notice,
add
how about
something else.
notice or termination of any lease?
Well, I don't know if we're gonna fine them for not telling them to
That's
return.
the
No, but at least we have to ask for it, so if there's an issue, we can at least have something in there.
Well, right now, we fine people if they don't give us a lease within 10 days.
Gary,
And that's
I-
still up to the board's
Gary, I
discretion
don't-
if they want
I
to.
Well,
think
we
we-
don't fine
No,
them. We don't fine them, but
we do fine them $1,000,
Oh, that's right.
and it's an immediate violation.
It's an, yeah.
That's right.
Do they have to, do they pay it if they come in and say, oops, sorry, here's the lease and
They
here's
can
all this
appeal it.
stuff?
They can
Yeah,
appeal
they can
it.
appeal it to the board.
Gary, that phrase doesn't fit that sentence.
Okay.
And I can't think of a time when a board has ever waived that fine
Really?
for an Airbnb or short-term
No.
rental.
Oh, no,
Never.
no, not for that, no,
It's a-
just for a person, a
it's a
family moving from
consistency
one
thing.
unit to another unit.
That's not been anything that we've really had big issues with.
Oh, okay.
Maybe we could throw in a separate sentence somewhere in here.
Yeah, but that's still, this comes above the finding information, so if you want to put it there before failure to
Failure to
provide.
provide.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think that is an important thing to have, fine people for it. They really should let you know when that person leaves, particularly in this particular day and age with people
We-
coming and going.
The intent is, we don't want to fine them if they fail to tell us it's terminated, right?
We
don't-
do.
We do?
I think we should.
If they fail to
If
terminate?
they've left the city or the state or the nation,
if
No,
we-
if the owner,
The owner has to.
when the owner comes in the next time and say, oh, yeah, well, I'm registering a new person.
No.
you're like,
The owner
No.
never comes in.
It's always
the-
the tenant.
Right, the tenant, but at that point, you know
Do you
that
want
the
to
owner.
fine people when they move out and they forget to tell us?
The
They're
owner.
not finding the tenant,
You're
finding the owner.
finding
That's
the
what I
owner.
mean.
We can,
The owner is running a business here,
Yeah.
and nothing personal, I mean, you know, he's running a business, on his taxes, he's running a business. I don't think it's unreasonable to let management know when that unit is vacant or about to turn
Well, my-
over, or whatever's going on
My
with
issue
it.
is if
This is
the-
not so difficult,
If you rent a garage apartment,
right?
and we have a lease for that, then we kind of expect, in most cases, the resident of that garage apartment, the leasing, uses our facilities and pays a fee, a service fee, to use the facilities, go to the swimming pool, go to the park, you know. If that person never uses it, or when that person leaves, then that's one less person using our facility. So do we want to fine the owner because we have less people using our
Well, but
facility?
That's not the issue, we're
I don't
looking
think
for a
that's the issue,
termination of
yeah.
lease.
I think we're talking two separate issues. Whether we choose to
Yeah.
fine somebody or not is a separate discussion from,
Please
do they
tell
have
us.
the responsibility to
Please tell
notify
us.
us when they leave?
agreed.
I mean, but please, unfortunately, it doesn't work very
I
well.
have a question, Susan. You're-
So, I mean, maybe not $1,000.
What do you get out of knowing that they're not here?
Yeah, that's kind of what I
We
was.
I
just
mean, do you-
deactivate their cards,
Besides deactivating the card, which will be done,
nothing,
which will be done at the end of the lease.
right.
I don't know.
I mean, again, it's what problem are we solving?
I don't perceive it as a problem, but I certainly, understand that we want to know when the lease is up so that we can deactivate the card. Because that's all we're doing is activating a card. They have to bring a lease to get a card and then when we deactivate the cards, they have to come back and say, oh, I moved to 1207 Celebration Boulevard or wherever they've moved, you know, from Maiden Terrace or wherever.
Well, I mean, what would immediately jump to me to answer your question was when we talked about a half hour ago, hey, if there's a natural emergency and we can't get a hold of the homeowner because he's out in France, and we got 24 hours to clear off the guy's patio, if knowing who's the tenant, whether or not the guy's still there or not, and having that contact information, or if that person has left.
I don't think we'd have that contact information anyway.
Do we not?
We don't
We have
ask.
a lease.
Yeah, you have a lease, but you don't have a phone number in
No,
the lease.
not,
So when
nec-
you collect information, you don't gather any information
Not
about
for
the person
tenants.
themselves?
Not for tenants,
just
no.
for owners.
Okay.
I'd just be happy, just
Even the card,
not
even
even address
when
the
they get a
termination of
card,
lease.
if you give a
Yeah.
card though, don't you
Yeah.
have?
I'm leaning
Well, we
with you.
know their
I'm leaning with you
address,
on
we
that,
know
too,
their
'cause
name,
You've
we
done
have
it
a
many
copy
times.
of their lease,
Okay.
so,
We don't want to get into notifications anyway for the reason that we don't want to
and they can
clean
sign
the
up with
porches for them in the
Friday.
windstorm.
You know, I'm trying to think the benefit of the termination of the lease, other than to say, well, you've leased this garage apartment out for 6 months now, and you can only do it for 3 more months, type thing.
I mean,
That's not even gonna happen. They won't be reported half the
I mean,
time.
that's not the reason I'm interested. I just like, we notice that something isn't being done at an apartment, or we see activity, and you go and find out, somebody comes in and says, oh, I see all these cars going in and out next door, I don't know what's going on. I think I'd be happier if you could say, well, you know, that's so-and-so, it's, you know the status of that. There's no one there. That is, as far as you know, that person, it was rented, the person left, it hasn't been re-rented, and they're, you know, people pulling up at 8 o'clock at
Well-
night and not leaving until the next morning seems odd.
I agree with Bill and Jack, and that's what I was getting at. You expressed it much better than I did. I don't see a benefit for knowing that the person has moved away, maybe even early, before the lease is over.
From a
They're not
management
deep-
perspective, don't we want to know who's in and out of the houses?
We
Well,
don't know
that's the
now.
owner's job to know.
Right, you're right, we don't know, no.
We have no idea who's
Well, that's
living.
not the question, though. Whether or not they're doing it or not is an enforcement question. Whether or not we're asking them to do it or not
Well,
is.
I don't think that's management's responsibility.
Yeah, there's 1,800 units.
No, there's 4,300 units.
No, 1,800.
Garage apartments?
Garage apartment units
Yeah.
in this
Oh,
town.
we're referring more
That's-
to the houses in general, not just garage apartments.
referring-
Yeah,
just any-
but I
any
mean, that's
property, yeah.
overwhelming to try to figure that out.
Yeah, I think we're burdening ourselves unnecessarily.
Yes.
I agree with you. I don't see a benefit. The owner, it's important for them to know when the tenant leaves, but I don't need to know. That's my opinion.
Susan, I mean, do
Okay.
you see any benefit to it or no? No?
We haven't, I don't know of any community that's tracking when people leave, unless it's an apartment complex or something like that.
Okay.
That's revenue for the complex. So you're okay with this
Yes.
in general?
Yes.
Consensus? Okay. Well, guess what? The next item on my list, going sequentially, is parking. But we don't have to go there if you want to call it a night.
Let's
Good
call it
night.
a night.
Yeah, I think it's.
We've only been here,
It's almost 8 o'clock.
It's nothing I can do with parking right now.
yeah, suffering burnout.
Did you go to Arby's last night?
No.
Oh, God.
So Gary,
Wait, so before we do this,
I have a couple of things before
Susan.
we go.
you need to turn it off.
Gary's got a couple of things.
Well,
Hey,
go ahead, Jack.
While Gary is looking, Susan, let me ask you a question, because it's about some of the language. When somebody rents out their garage apartment, that person gets a card under the, do they have to pay additional for that, for the amenities? No, that's been discussed, but it's not done yet.
right, it's not done, and according to Tom Slayton, we don't have the right to do it because
Well, we don't know.
it's per lot, assessments per lot, so you can't give them an extra
Sort
assessment.
of being paid for by the homeowner.
Right.
Right,
Okay,
right,
That's,
because I know that's the way it is in the charter, that we can't charge them.
right, right.
But basically,
That's
saying
why.
legally we
And-
can't charge
Yes,
them.
and Tom
That
has
is,
It's-
confirmed that.
it's one of our issues, but I was holding it back until I get it in writing from the lawyer.
okay.
We've already gotten it in writing.
That's
I
right
saw
now.
it.
Well, it's always good to ask.
Haven't uploaded to me.
Steve, send it to you?
I haven't received anything.
I'll
haven't received it.
find it, because I know I've seen
So
it.
my last point is, and it was to your question in whispering, is in anticipation of future working groups and other issues coming up, I'm going to ask our lawyer appear at the next task force meeting.
Yes.
See if he's available. And our next meeting would be Wednesday, the 12th. If the lawyer's available then, he'll be
Okay.
here to answer questions and provide advice. I don't want to wait any longer because things are piling up.
For the next meeting, would it be possible, because some of us, really have trouble seeing it, and I take it some other way of
Well,
showing
I
us
can do this.
Can you email us a copy ahead of time? I'll bring my laptop.
something like that, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'll just bring my laptop.
Yeah, I'd like to see a copy of what we revised so far. So forward us a copy of
Here's-
the file.
I can do that. I'll send it PDF, not as a Word document. I'll ask your opinion, and I'm going to say this publicly. Everything we do is a working document until it's voted on. And
Voted on by the associate, by the,
Right.
okay. I'm
Yeah.
just making sure we're,
And there's thousands of residents in Celebration. And every document we produce is different every week. And I wouldn't want anyone to get a copy of it and say, oh my God, look what they're doing. Look at the changes we made tonight. We completely reoriented some variations of some sentences. So I'm asking you to keep it close hold. We invite members of the audience to review it, but I really wouldn't want it to be shotgunned out to the, because once you lose something electronically, you lose control of it.
Okay.
Could you watermark it,
draft.
whatever?
Yep.
Was it Dungeons and Dragons?
So I'm looking at PDF, I'll be glad to send it to you.
mark it draft and then date, maybe.
Right, oh, that'll be dated. But I'm asking also not to forward it.
So you're just saying it's privileged information?
That's right, it's privileged information. Now, it's still public because we're discussing it, you can come look at it, but I don't want to lose control of it because I don't want people to get the wrong impression of look what they're doing, and then the back porch and the front porch is just full of gossip. Pardon me for saying that, but it'll happen.
And where will the master schedule be posted with all the meetings and stuff?
I sent out an email, I forwarded you my first email,
Right, I got that.
and I will send another email of all the list of the
Oh, okay.
meetings that we have on our schedule so far. I'll send that all to you tomorrow. And,
I already have a document, Arnie, I've just drafted a whole list of all the meetings that we have right now. And I'm going to send that on to JR.
should we
So-
proofread that?
And Nikki.
Should
And
we-
Nikki, yeah,
Should we
right, so-
proofread that?
I can give it to you right, what I have for, is it right now, how's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I don't want to keep people, but
Well,
we can do it.
we'll probably need to schedule more anyway, I think so, right?
Oh, yes, but I'm talking so far, I don't want to send
Right.
out another June 16th.
Correct. So right now I have June the 12th at 6 is our next task force meeting, followed by Tuesday, June 25th at 6 is the one after that. So we have 2 task force meetings, official meetings scheduled. Our working groups right now, the next one that we have on the schedule is Thursday, June 6th at 5 o'clock for Budget and Finance with Bill. Tuesday, June 11th at 4 is Rules with Jack. Tuesday, June 11th at 6 is Governance. Irene, that's you, or Eileen, so you got me saying it now.
Everybody does
I don't know why I did
I
that.
know it's Eileen, I'm sorry.
I don't know why I did
And then,
It's very common. It happens all the
Wednesday,
time.
Wednesday, June 12th at 4 is Homeowner Responsibilities for Leslie.
Yes.
Tuesday, June 25th at 4 is Governance with Eileen.
Mhm.
And then Monday, July 1st at 5 PM is Budget and Finance with Bill.
Right.
Am I missing any?
No?
Okay, so we still have more to schedule though.
Mhm.
And you're sending that to us, right?
I'm gonna send it out to you.
And
you.
I'm,
Perfect.
let's see, from the time we have our last task force meeting in June, there's only one working group in July. And then I have a deadline of 11th July for an interim report.
Okay.
So I can handle that. Because I didn't want too many working groups to go by and then turn in an interim report that's, we might say, muddled.
How do we report back? You're the master of that document, and I totally respect somebody
We'll be
being
here.
the
We'll be
master
here
of the
for it.
document.
If you as your working group decide on language and whatever you do, put it in writing, give me the reference, email it to me. Don't shotgun it to everybody in the world.
Sure.
Email it to me, I put it in the master document, and then we review it at the next task force meeting. And like I said, it's coming from you as the chairman of the working group. I don't want 6, 7, or 18 versions of the same thing. I want one version that's a consensus, and that's why I didn't want, you know.
No, I write applications with a team from
Right.
time to time, and I'm a stickler for document control, because I don't want to respond to something that's out of sequence.
Exactly. Yeah. So just, all of you, it's at the top, I put the instructions at the top of each page. Send it to me.
Okay.
We had talked, I just mentioned to Vanessa, we had talked about moving this to either a SharePoint or Google Docs or something like that.
That is on my list in writing to Town Hall, and I gave it to them 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
We
I'm
can do
waiting.
Google, I actually talked with Patrick about it, we can do Google Docs. We just have to get everything set
I
up.
want it to be secure.
Yeah, it'll just be, it would be strictly the emails right here
Mhm.
that will be the only ones that'll have access to the Google
So
Doc.
I'm waiting for it to be set up, and then I'll populate it.
Okay, perfect.
See, so, yes, the request went in the day after our meeting, Greg. This is the first I've heard of any work on
That's
that.
on me, because I did not follow up, to let you know that I did speak with Patrick about it.
Thank you.
I just think the whole version control and all the other concerns that I share would
Yeah.
Yeah.
be easily.
Well, I thank you for all your inputs, and the audience too. Thank you very much. And as painful as it is, guess what? It's painful as it is.
That's what I was thinking.
But thank you very much.
Nice spin, very good spin on that.
I appreciate all of your comments, I really do. I'll call this meeting as adjourned.
Thank you.
No, I